The most experienced Glock owners in the carry community aren't buying more Glocks right now. They're buying these. Not because Glock stopped working, because in 2026, the gap between what Glock offers and what the rest of the market has built, that gap finally got too wide to ignore. Here's what changed. Factory triggers started arriving that don't need replacement. Compensated carry moved from competition habit to daily carry standard. Optics integration went from aftermarket hassle to out-of-the-box feature. And a new wave of pistols landed that delivered from the factory what experienced Glock owners were spending hundreds of dollars to build one upgrade at a time. These are the 10 pistols driving that shift. Some are obvious, some are going to surprise you, and one of them is actually a Glock. Number 10. Glock 49 MOS. We're starting with something unexpected because one of the pistols pulling Glock owners away from their G19S is another Glock. The G49 MOS is a crossover design, G17 length slide and barrel on a G19 length grip. That means a longer sight radius, more muzzle weight for better recoil control, and the shorter grip that actually makes concealment work under everyday clothing. Glock owners have been asking for this combination for over a decade. They got it in 2023, and it's been quietly building a following ever since. The MOS optics cut is clean. Suppressor height sights come standard. Most popular micro red dots mount without an adapter plate. For Glock owners who fought the adapter plate system on older generations, that alone registers as a meaningful upgrade. Here's the honest reality though, it's still a factory Glock trigger, still polymer frame, still the same manual of arms, which is exactly why it works as an entry point. It keeps everything familiar while solving the specific problems experienced shooters complained about most. The trade-off worth knowing, at this price point, everything else on this list is doing more. The G49 MOS is the conservative switch, not the exciting one. But for someone who isn't ready to leave the ecosystem entirely, it's the right move. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 15+1. Barrel length, 4.49 inches. Weight, 22.4 ounces unloaded. Price range, $520 to $600. The verdict. The G49 MOS is the gateway drug. It introduces crossover ergonomics and clean optics integration without asking a Glock owner to change everything at once. Smart starting point. But once someone shoots what's coming up on this list, the G49 rarely stays the final destination. Number 9. Springfield Hellcat Pro Comp. For years, the question in the carry market was whether an integrated compensator on a subcompact actually works or whether it's just something that looks good on paper and fails with real defensive ammunition. Springfield answered that question with the Hellcat Pro Comp. The compensator on this pistol runs reliably on standard 115 grain and 124 grain defensive loads. That was the sticking point that killed most earlier attempts at comp on carry. Previous designs required hotter loads to cycle properly, which is exactly the wrong requirement for a daily carry gun. Springfield solved it, and the result is muzzle flip reduction that's physically obvious, not something you measure on a slow-motion camera and then argue about online. The trigger has a more defined wall and a crisper break than earlier Hellcat generations. The optics-ready slide accepts the Shield RMSC footprint, natively no adapter plate. 15 rounds in a grip this short is still an impressive number. Where you feel the difference most is in fast strings, transitions between targets, rapid follow-ups, shooting under any kind of time pressure. The comp variant stays flatter, and the dot tracks more consistently than the standard Pro. And that consistency under speed is what carry training is actually about. The honest limitation? The grip is shorter than the SIG X Macro platform. For large-handed shooters used to a full G19 grip, that registers immediately. Adequate for most people, not generous to everyone. Caliber, 9mm. Capacity, 15+1. Barrel length, 3.7 inches with integrated comp. Weight, 21.5 ounces unloaded. Price range, $580 to $650. The verdict. The Hellcat Pro Comp is the answer for a Glock owner who wants a flat-shooting subcompact with real capacity and a compensator that was engineered to work, not bolted on as a marketing feature. The fact that it reliably runs defensive loads isn't a small detail, it's the whole product. Number 8. FN Reflex XL MRD. Most people who pick up the FN Reflex XL MRD assume it's a striker-fired pistol. It isn't, and that single detail changes everything about what this gun does. The Reflex XL is hammer-fired, but FN keeps the hammer completely internal, recessed inside the slide in a machined slot. Zero snag profile, nothing to catch. But what that internal hammer does mechanically is give you an easier racking slide than virtually any striker-fired competitor in this class. A smoother trigger with a consistent 4.5 to 5 pound pull, and better performance with one-handed rack scenarios, which matter in real defensive situations in a way that range sessions don't always reveal. FN launched the Reflex platform with one goal: have the best factory trigger in the carry market. The XLMRD doesn't compromise that. The break is clean, the reset is fast, and for Glock owners conditioned to either accepting a mediocre factory trigger or paying $150 to fix it, picking up the Reflex XL MRD is a quiet revelation. Capacity is 15+1 flush, 18+1 extended. The optics ready slide cuts accept Shield RMSC and HoloSun 507K footprints natively. Cold hammer forged barrel. At just over an inch wide and 6.75 inches overall, it carries in a standard appendix rig without drama, despite the 15-round flush magazine. One more detail that was clearly engineered for Glock converts. The accessory rail is cross-compatible with the Glock 43XMOS light footprint. Your current weapon light may transfer directly, that's not an accident. Caliber 9mm. Capacity 15+1, 18+1 extended. Barrel length 4.0 inches. Weight 20 ounces unloaded. Price range $700 to $750. The verdict. The Reflex XL MRD is a carry pistol for shooters who care deeply about trigger quality and want a mechanical experience that feels different from the striker-fired norm. The internal hammer system, the factory trigger, and the optics integration tell a coherent story. Holster availability is growing, but not yet at Glock levels. Verify your setup before committing. Number 7. Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Metal Carry Comp. There's a physics argument being made in the carry market right now, and it goes like this. If you want less muzzle rise, you need more mass. Not a better shooter, more mass. And metal frame carry guns have been making that argument successfully enough that the trend has gone from niche to mainstream. The M&P 2.0 Metal Carry Comp is S&W's most complete version of that argument. Machined aluminum frame not cast, machined adds forward weight that polymer simply cannot replicate. Then they stacked an integrated compensator on top of it. The result is a carry gun where muzzle flip reduction is immediate and obvious, not something you debate after a session. Glock owners who switch to this and shoot it back-to-back with their G19 will feel the difference on the first magazine. That's not hype, it's what the mass and the comp do together on every shot. The M&P 2.0 trigger platform in this generation is not the mushy experience from the original M&P era. There's a defined wall, a clean break, a short tactile reset. It's a factory trigger that no longer needs an apology. Combined with what the metal frame and comp are doing on recoil, the overall system delivers controllability that's unusual at this price. The honest trade-off is real and worth saying directly. 27.2 ounces unloaded is heavier than most of the carry market right now. If you spend 12 hours a day on your feet, that weight registers differently than it does at the range. For shooters who prioritize shooting performance over carry comfort, the trade-off is obvious. For everyone else, it's worth thinking through carefully. Caliber 9mm. Capacity 15+1. Barrel length 4.0 inches with integrated comp. Weight 27.2 ounces unloaded. Price range $650 to $750. The verdict. The M&P 2.0 Metal Carry Comp is for the Glock owner who's done with polymer frame carry guns and wants a metal frame pistol with modern features already built in. The machined frame, the comp, and the improved trigger deliver a shooting experience that Glock cannot match at any price in their polymer lineup. The weight is the only honest trade-off. Number 6. Shadow Systems MR92OP. Here's who Shadow Systems built the MR92OP for. The experienced Glock shooter who's been modifying their gun for 3 years finally looked at what they've spent and decided they wanted all of it done from the factory instead. The comp on the MR92OP isn't threaded on. Shadow Systems engineered a proprietary 3-lug muzzle system with a centrally located locking lever built into the comp itself. It locks positively, doesn't rotate under fire, and stays timed. This is an important distinction. A thread-on comp is an add-on. The MR92OP's comp is part of the pistol. The trigger is where the MR92OP earns its reputation with experienced shooters. Shorter pre-travel than Glock factory. Crisper break. More defined reset. It's not subtle. Shooters who've installed aftermarket Glock triggers notice the difference immediately, and the Shadow Systems trigger is doing it from the factory at the purchase price. DLC-coded slide, multi-optic cut that accepts most popular footprints directly, tritium night sight standard, interchangeable back straps. The ergonomics have been refined specifically around concealed carry, the beaver tail, the undercut, the grip texture placement. Every detail traces back to carry function. Some MR92OP configurations maintain Glock 19 holster compatibility. That means existing holster hardware may transfer directly, which matters to shooters who've invested in a quality holster system. Caliber 9mm, capacity 15+1, barrel length 4.25 to 4.5 inches with integrated comp. Weight 20.5 ounces unloaded. Price range $850 to $1,000. The verdict: the MR92OP is a factory-finished answer to everything experienced Glock owners were building toward. If you've been upgrading your Glock piecemeal and the total spend is making you uncomfortable, this is the number that puts it in perspective. Shadow Systems did the work. You just carry it. Number 5. Canik TTI Combat. The fastest way to understand the Canik TTI Combat is to put it in someone's hands who has spent money on aftermarket Glock triggers and watch their face when they press the factory trigger on the TTI Combat. The break geometry on this trigger is 90 degrees flat. The pull weight runs around 3.5 pounds. The reset happens faster than most shooters can consciously process during a string of fire. This is the trigger that Taran Butler, one of the most decorated competitive shooters in the world, signed off on as meeting his standard. That means something specific, and shooters with enough experience to evaluate it will feel it immediately. Taran Tactical's involvement in this pistol wasn't branding. The frame was designed by Taran Butler from scratch. The ergonomics reflect what decades of high-level competitive shooting produce when someone builds a pistol the way they actually want to hold it. Aggressive grip texture at the contact points. High grip geometry that naturally reduces muzzle rise before the trigger is pressed. Beaver tail that seats consistent every draw. The 4.6-inch ported and fluted barrel with a quick-attach compensator via spring-loaded locking lever manages recoil on 18+1 rounds of 9mm. The optics ready slide comes with 3 mounting plates. The package out of the box includes more than most pistols charged separately for. There's one friction point worth acknowledging honestly. Some carry shooters hesitate at Canik when explaining their carry gun to peers. That's a real psychological factor in the market. It's also fading every year as more experienced shooters put round counts through this platform, and the results speak for themselves. Caliber 9mm, capacity 18+1, barrel length 4.6 inches ported and fluted, weight 29.5 ounces unloaded, price range $900 to $1,000. The verdict: the Canik TTI Combat is what happens when a world-class competitive shooter is given actual engineering authority over a production pistol, not just a badge to put on it. The trigger alone justifies serious attention. The shooter who evaluates on performance instead of brand name will find this one of the most compelling entries on this entire list. Number 4. Walther PDP Compact Pro SD. There's a reason Walther's PDP triggers keep coming up in conversations about what factory triggers should feel like. They've been building the standard in this category for years, and the Compact Pro SD is the most capable carry version of that trigger in a package that does something no other pistol on this list does from the factory. It ships with a threaded barrel, ready for a suppressor or a compensator on day one. No barrel swap, no aftermarket recoil spring guessing game. The 4.6-inch threaded barrel cut 1/2 by 28, which is the standard suppressor thread, comes with a dedicated suppressor weight recoil spring assembly already included in the box. That means Walther anticipated the actual use case and engineered the full solution, not just the barrel. For carry shooters who have suppressors or are actively acquiring them, and that number has grown significantly over the past 3 years, this matters in a way that changes the carry decision entirely. The question isn't, can I eventually get this to work with my can? The question is answered before the pistol leaves the factory. The dynamic performance trigger on the PDP is the piece that converts people. Shorter overall pull than the Glock factory trigger. A break that's consistently described as glassy, not in a marketing sense, but in the mechanical sense that it releases without stacking, without grittiness, without any of the behavior that makes experienced shooters reach for replacement parts. Walther spent years on this specific mechanism. The optic slide uses an extended 2mm cut that fits larger footprints like the Aimpoint Acro without adapter plates. 3 18-round magazines included, ambidextrous controls, super terrain serrations that work wet, caliber 9mm, capacity 15+1, 18-round mags included, barrel length 4.6 inches threaded 1/2 by 28, weight 26.4 ounces unloaded, price range $800 to $900. The verdict: the PDP Compact Pro SD is the most suppressor-ready carry pistol on this list, and the most complete factory trigger experience available in a compact package. For the carry shooter building a suppressor-forward setup, nothing else ships this configuration. For the shooter who simply wants the best factory trigger in the carry segment, same answer. Number 3. HK CC9. HK spent more than 5 years building the CC9, over 750,000 rounds fired in development, and when it launched in 2025, it carried a specific claim: the first pistol HK ever designed. Entirely in the United States, built entirely in the United States, specifically for the civilian concealed carry market. Not a military derivative, not a law enforcement spin-off adapted for commercial sale. Built from the ground up for carry. That development process shows up in specific, tangible ways. The cold hammer forged barrel is DLC coated. The fully pre-cocked striker system has a consistency and feel that separates it from every other micro compact currently in production. The slide-to-frame tolerances, the way the pistol comes apart, the way it goes back together, the overall material quality is measurably above what any competitor is delivering in this size class. The CC9 is under an inch wide, 6.03 inches long. It ships with a 10-round and a 12-round magazine. That flush fit capacity is lower than some competitors in this space, and that's worth saying directly rather than glossing over. Anyone honestly evaluating this pistol should weigh that limitation against what they're getting in exchange. What they're getting is the micro compact, with the highest build quality currently available at any price. That's not a marketing statement, it's the consistent conclusion of every serious evaluation the CC9 has been through since launch. HK's hostile environment testing standards, applied to a civilian carry pistol, produce a result that's physically and mechanically distinct from what everyone else is making. The optics-ready slide accepts the RMSC and Holosun 507K footprint natively. Tritium front sight factory standard. Interchangeable back straps. At $699 MSRP and often higher at retail, the CC9 is not the value proposition in this segment. The Saigi P365 covers most carry use cases at meaningfully lower cost. That's the honest trade-off. But experienced Glock owners who pick up the CC9 keep noticing the same thing. It doesn't feel like a product that was engineered to a price. It feels like a product that was engineered to a standard and the price was set afterward. Caliber 9mm. Capacity 10+1, 12+1 with extended mag. Barrel length 3.5 inches. Weight 19.7 ounces unloaded. Price range $650 to $750. The verdict: the HKCC9 is the best-built micro-compact carry pistol currently available. The 5-year development investment is physically present in every aspect of the gun. The capacity limitation is real. The quality gap over every competitor is equally real. For the shooter who wants the highest possible build standard in a carry micro-compact and is willing to pay what that actually costs, the CC9 is the answer. Number 2. Staccato C2. The Staccato C was discontinued in November 2025. The C2 is what's in production now, and it's the carry-optimized 2011 in the current lineup. 3.9-inch bull barrel. Billet 7075 aluminum frame. And the single-action trigger that, once a carry shooter experiences it, permanently changes what they're willing to accept from a factory trigger. The conversation around the C2 doesn't start with capacity or weight. It starts with what happens when you press the trigger for the first time and realize the entire striker-fired polymer carry gun world has been asking you to accept a compromise you didn't have to accept. The single-action trigger on the C2 breaks between 4 and 4.5 pounds. The travel is short. The break is clean in a way that's mechanically different from striker-fire triggers, not because striker-fire designs are poorly engineered, but because the 1911's 2011 single-action geometry is a fundamentally different machine. Experienced Glock shooters who've upgraded their triggers, installed aftermarket components, and done all the work pick up the C2 and immediately understand what the target was. The billet aluminum frame absorbs recoil in a way that polymer physics cannot replicate. Follow-up shots are faster. The dot tracks flatter under rapid strings. At 25 ounces unloaded, the C2 is heavier than polymer carry guns, but not dramatically, and the weight sits forward in a way that works with the recoil system rather than against the shooter. 16+1 capacity with the included magazines. Optics ready with the Staccato DPO slide cut, accepting shield and holosun footprints directly. 1.3 inches wide at the grip, which conceals in a real appendix rig without excessive bulk. Holster options have expanded significantly as the platform's civilian carry market presence has grown. At $1,699 and up, this is not a casual purchase decision. It's made by experienced shooters who've identified exactly what they want from a carry gun and are willing to reach for it. Caliber 9mm capacity, 16+1, barrel length 3.9 inches, weight 25 ounces unloaded. Price range $1,699 to $1,899. The verdict: the Staccato C2 is for the carry shooter who refuses to accept that carrying guns have to feel like carrying guns. The single-action 2011 trigger and the aluminum frame represent a different philosophy entirely, and the shooting experience reflects that at a level that's not subtle. The weight and price are real trade-offs. Everything else is what a carry gun can be when the compromises are engineered out instead of accepted. Number 1. SIG Sauer P365X Macro Comp. Here's the thing about the P365X Macro Comp. It doesn't beat every other pistol on this list in any single category. The Staccato C2 has a better trigger. The HKC C9 has better build quality. The Walther PDP has a better factory trigger for the carry segment. And yet the X Macro Comp is number 1 on this list, and the reason is simple. No other pistol in 2026 packs this many practical carry advantages into one package at this price. 17+1 rounds, G17 capacity, in a grip that is slimmer and shorter than a G19. Let that sit for a second, because that's what SIG accomplished when this platform launched, and what still defines the carry market conversation today. Full-size capacity in a form factor that fits in a standard carry rig without modification. The comp variant adds a 2-port compensator milled directly into the slide, with a 3.1-inch barrel inside the 6.6-inch overall length. Under defensive loads, muzzle flip is visibly physically reduced. Under +P defensive ammunition, which serious carry shooters actually run, the comp effect is more pronounced. The pistol sits flat in a way that its size profile doesn't suggest it should. Experienced shooters describe it as startling the first time they run it under speed. SIG's X-ray 3-day/night sights are factory standard. These are the best factory carry sights on this entire list. The front sight illuminates in low light in a way that's genuinely useful rather than decorative. The optics-ready slide accepts the most popular micro red dot footprints, interchangeable back straps, low-bore axis that works across a wide range of hand sizes. The Glock owner who spent the last 2 years adding an optic, installing an aftermarket trigger, mounting a comp, swapping to suppressor height sights, they pick up the X macro comp and see all of it done from the factory at $699 to $800. That's the moment. That's why this is number 1. Caliber. 9mm capacity, 17 plus 1 barrel length, 3.1 inches with integrated comp weight, 21.5 ounces unloaded price range, $699 to $800, the verdict. The SIG P365 X Macro Comp is the most complete factory carry pistol available in 2026 at its price point. Capacity, compensation, optics readiness, and the best carry iron sights available, all factory engineered into one coherent platform without the price tag that usually comes with that level of integration. For Glock owners who've been building toward this performance profile one upgrade at a time, the X Macro Comp is the cleaner answer. The carry pistol market in 2026 doesn't look like it did 5 years ago. Factory trigger stopped being something you replace on day one. Compensated carry moved from competition only to everyday reality. Optics integration went from aftermarket projects to purchase expectations. And manufacturers started delivering from the factory what experienced shooters used to spend hundreds of dollars assembling themselves. Glock owners aren't switching because Glock failed. They're switching because the standard moved and the gap between that standard and what a G19 ships with from the factory has become impossible to rationalize on pure brand loyalty. Old habits in the carry world die hard. But performance has a way of making the argument louder than any review. So, would you actually switch away from Glock in 2026? Or are these newer pistols still not enough to move you? Drop it in the comments. The conversation down there is usually more interesting than the video.